This is the Sony a7C. The C stands for cool, cheap, and creepy. Okay, just kidding. The a7C is actually a very compact and light camera, and it has a flip out screen. It takes 24 megapixel photos and utilizes the entire sensor, which means that you can record crispy 4K that is downsampled from 6K. It's got a mic input, APS-C mode, which means that you can zoom in more without losing detail. The a7C has state-of-the-art eye focus tracking, built-in image stabilization, and a whole lot of tricks up its sleeve. This is my Sony a7C camera review, after using it for about 6 months as my main camera. Actually, I have the receipt right here. It was more like 4 months. Hey everyone, hope y'all doing great. My name is Tom, and that quick little summary was for the Red Bull generation. I'm getting kind of tired of getting that comment. Video starts at 2 minutes. By the way, if you can pounce on that like button, it will really be helpful. You see, I'm a YouTuber with an imposter syndrome. Okay, all jokes aside, we'll use them later. In all honesty, this is not a pro photographer review. It's more of a, hey, I'm a YouTuber, I like camera kind of a review. Seriously, I've been doing YouTube videos for the last 10 years, and I think I know my way around a camera. I think it's this way. Now, I did a lot of research before buying this camera. I knew all about the pros and the cons. I knew it wasn't perfect. Because of its size, some compromises had to be made. It's like, you know, there isn't a lot of vitamins in cookies, and so you have to make a compromise. You have to eat a lot of them. Just kidding, but seriously, this is actually my very first full-frame camera. I've used some APS-C cameras in the past, Canon mainly, but for the last 4 years or so, I've been using Micro Four Thirds cameras like the Panasonic G7 and the Panasonic GH5. And I mostly use my cameras to make YouTube videos, obviously. And also I shoot a lot of B-roll that I sell as stock footage. Now, I'm the kind of person that prefers to take pictures with my smartphone because honestly, my iPhone takes really good pictures. Don't believe me? That thumbnail you clicked on? Yeah, it was made with an iPhone 12 Pro. You're welcome. That being said, I have taken a lot of pictures with the Sony a7C, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed, especially with the low light performance, the dynamic range, the color science that Sony uses. But it should be noted that I got this camera mainly for the video and the image. Get it? Image? Like, never mind. Now, the first thing to talk about here is the insane state-of-the-art eye tracking feature. Seriously, I've used the GH5 for the last 4 years, and I'm honestly just tired of shooting in manual focus. Not that this doesn't have autofocus, but because it's so unreliable that I'm too afraid to use it, basically. Am I in focus? Come on GH5, here I am, woohoo. I'm right here! But on the Sony a7C, I know that I'm in focus every time I record my face. Like, it cannot fail. It is incredible. Now, a lot of people watching this video who have had Sony cameras for years, they're like, yeah, welcome to the club, newbie. Seriously, I'm truly impressed with the Sony eye tracking feature. It's amazing. I seriously love the size and design of the Sony a7C. When I first saw the commercial, I was like, hello mama, come to papa. Did that sound weird to you? Because it sounded really weird to me. There's some serious engineering going on here. Getting a full frame sensor into a tiny body like that? I mean, look at it. It's so tiny. You can carry it with you without hurting your back. You can get a really small lens for it and put it in your pants. I didn't say pockets. So that's really great, right? Well, I was really excited about it, but then there is the whole reality of having a really small camera. Sacrifices have to be made. Hey, has anyone seen my goat? Now, the grip is fine, but it's not great. It's not like the GH5, like when you have a grip on this thing, you just can't let go. But on the Sony a7C, the grip is kind of tiny. It's doable, but it's tiny. And also, you have to take into consideration the lenses. Like, it's a really tiny camera, and to put on one of these bad boys, like, it's gonna be wobbly. There's just no way going around it. Now, obviously, there are small lenses for the Sony full-frame cameras. And also, you can use APS-C lenses on this camera if you shoot in APS-C mode. But just remember, for video it works great because it crops in on the sensor, but when it crops in on the sensor while taking pictures, you get less resolution. So you go from 24 megapixels to about 10 megapixels. That's not a good compromise. And also, there aren't too many customizable buttons on the Sony a7C. You can make it work, however. I mean, I had a ton of customizable buttons on my Panasonic GH5, and I usually just use 2 of them sometimes. I mean, seriously, this is not a deal breaker. You have disappointed me for the last time. A thing to remember about Sony full-frame lenses is that they are expensive. I've tested 3 lenses so far. I've tested the Samyang 24mm f2.8. I've tested the Sony 50mm f1.8 that I'm shooting on right now. And I've tested this, the Samyang 14mm f2.8. Now, from my personal experience, when it comes to lenses, despite of the number of lenses that I've owned, I've usually ended up only using 2. Get it? Now, I really like the Sony colors out of this camera. You can shoot in flat mode, like if you're into log, vlog, and LUTs and stuff like that. It's got a ton of features for that as well. Although it doesn't record video in 10-bit, only 8-bit. But personally, I'm too lazy to color grade. And that's why I am more than pleased with the colors coming out of this camera. I think Sony does an excellent job of getting the right colors here. And no, this video clip has not been color graded at all. Pro tip, just remember to always check the white balance. Now, because it's full frame, it's really easy to get nice background blur when you're shooting videos and taking pictures, so-called bokeh. But of course, it all really depends on the lens that you use. So delicious. That background blur is so... Oh. Never mind. I like to take photos at night and I often shoot videos indoors. So it's nice to have that big sensor which captures a lot of light. So needless to say, when it comes to low light, this camera really shines. Pun intended? Can't be sure. You can record up to 4K 30 FPS, but then it gets cropped. So I usually shoot in 24 frames per second to utilize the full sensor. Image quality is crisp and the colors are very accurate and popping. But speaking of, I do wish that the Sony a7C could shoot in 4K 60 frames per second. That was actually the one and only thing that was holding me back before purchasing this camera. Now, let's be honest. 4K 60, for most people, it's completely useless. Most people shoot in 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. And this has slow motion. It has 1080p in 120 frames per second. And it looks really good. Like some cameras, when they shoot in slow motion, it looks really bad. But on this camera, it's really good. The autofocus works and you can shoot in low light and it's really decent quality. Also, 95% of people watching videos on YouTube, they can't tell the difference between 4K and 1080p. Some would even argue that the human eye could not distinguish the difference. Excuse me, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I can see your pixels. Now, some of you might be wondering, hey, why didn't you just get the Sony a7S III if slow motion is so important for you? Well, I'll give you 2 reasons. 1, it is extremely expensive. And 2, it is extremely expensive. I just could not justify purchasing a camera for that price and it can only shoot 12 megapixel photos. Like, come on. Now, I can pretty much guess what you're thinking at this point. First, megapixels, they don't really matter that much. And didn't you say, Tom, that you don't use this camera for photographs that much anyway? And third, didn't you say that you usually take photos with your iPhone, which coincidentally only has 12 megapixels? Well, to that I say, in order for you to understand my logic and my way of thinking, I would need hand puppets, a Ouija board, and a rubber duck. Now, I want to mention the flip out screen. It's really good, but also the flip out screen is the main reason why I haven't purchased a Sony camera for so many years. You see, this is actually the first mirrorless Sony camera with a flip out screen. First they released the Sony ZV-1, but it wasn't actually a mirrorless camera. But this thing, it's got a flip out screen, which is important. It's not just so you can see yourself when you're recording. I mean, let's be honest, that's the main reason, but it's also to be able to shoot in very different positions when you're using the camera. The flip out screen is a necessity for most photographers and YouTubers. Now, I don't mean to alarm you, but there are some things I didn't like about this camera. First, it's the image stabilization. It's just not good. I mean, compared to the Panasonic GH5, it's really just about as worthless as a cactus on a chimney. Now, I know you can use Sony's software, the Catalyst, to stabilize your footage. You see, even though the image stabilization isn't very good on the Sony camera, you can actually turn it off and use the gyro data that this camera records, and in the software you can tweak it and get pretty stable shots. Now, it's good as an option, but unless the stabilization doesn't take place in the camera, I'm not gonna use it. I don't have time to sit around and stabilize my footage. I just can't waste time doing that. And for those of you who don't understand what that means, trust me, when you're near 40, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, there is no 4K time-lapse video mode on this camera, which is a real shame. And what I mean is, like, you can take time lapses on the Sony a7C, but it will take pictures. It can't actually splice them together into one video file, which is a real shame because all of my Panasonic cameras can do that. My GoPro can do that. My iPhone can do that. Hell, even my cats can do that. Now, okay, technically speaking, you can take time-lapse photos and move them over to your computer and put them together and get a video file out of it. But it's sort of like flossing. You can learn to do it, but you'll never get used to it. So I don't do it. I like the weather-sealed hatches on this camera, but the hatch for the microphone, it's like impossible to open. It's like, remember season 2 of Lost? Yeah. It's that hard. Okay, now I need to talk about the menu system. So, I've been hearing about it for years, people complaining endlessly. Truth be told, I never got what the whole fuss was all about. It's just a menu, right? Well, the menu system on the Sony camera, it was forged in the hellfires of Mount Doom in order to make life miserable for everyone here in Middle-earth. The file system is stupid. When you take out your memory card and put it into a computer, you will notice a couple of things. One, the video files are not in the same folder as the photo files. Why, Sony? And two, the video files are in like a hidden folder in a folder. Again, why are you punishing us, Sony? Okay, the app is like really bad. So, first of all, it's laggy, it's slow. There is this thing where it automatically transfers photos to your smartphone without you asking it to. And for the life of me, I cannot see how to turn off this function. So I've been looking, trust me. Marco. Now, I usually transfer video files from my Panasonic cameras to my smartphone, but on the Sony camera, I just can't seem to do it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm using the wrong cable? And there are two things that I wanted to mention to consider. So, there is no dual slot here. Now, for most people, it's not important, but if you're a wedding photographer, it might be very important to know. Okay, you can kiss the bride. Wait. No, do it again. Okay, you can kiss the bride. Shut up, preacher, shut up! Also, there is this overheating protection, which doesn't let you record videos very long. It shuts down when it reaches a certain temperature. Now, I've turned off this protection mode, and so far my camera's been doing great. But it doesn't have actual overheating issues. I think it's just being overprotective. I know that the Sony a7 III did have issues with this, so maybe that's why it has this overheating protection. You can turn it off and it won't bug you anymore. Go away. And now for some final thoughts. Now, I'm a tech geek, and some of you might also be tech geeks. Or you need the camera for something specific, like shooting YouTube videos, making content on Instagram, I don't know. Now, this camera is very powerful, but remember, with great powers comes great responsibility. No, I'm just kidding. What I mean to say is, a camera is just a tool. Now, the better the camera, the better the content, right? Well, I'm not so sure about that. My point is, instead of focusing on the camera, I think we should all try to focus more of what's in front of the camera. Make good content. Okay, that's it. That was the whole review. If you enjoyed it or found it somewhat helpful, then let me know in the comment section below, or a like perhaps. It will be highly appreciated. Until next time, stay cool, cheap, and creepy. Until next time, stay cool and cheap and creepy. Oh, you're still here. Oh, that's right. It's the behind the scenes vlog. For those of you who are new, this is a kind of a behind the scenes thing I do at the end of some of my videos where I talk about more personal stuff. It's mainly for the subscribers, but you're more than welcome to stick around. Okay, so as you can probably tell, if you're new, you have no idea what I'm talking about. For the rest of you, you can probably tell that I did a very different format today. I tried to make it a bit more funny, a bit more cheerful. I put in a lot of jokes. Maybe I overdid it. I'm not sure. You let me know. But I just felt like these last couple of videos have been kind of downers, so I wanted to make it more fun, more enjoyable. It's been like a real doomsday party recently, you know? Like, yeah, things are hard. They still are very hard for me. Like, the things that I mentioned that's been affecting me recently, they're still there. There's a lot of issues still going on with cancer and stuff like that. It's rough, but you know, you gotta move on. And so I'm currently on vacation. So me and my wife, we've been trying to time in the weather because it can really change from one day to the next, even sometimes during the day. Like, it can rain, it can snow, it can, you know, it's Sweden. It is what it is. But a couple of days ago, we had this really beautiful weather and we decided to go to an island. Last video, I told you about this other island we were at called Ven. But this week, we were at this island called Hallands. Wait, I have to check. I forgot what the name was. We were at this island called Hallandväderön. It was this beautiful, rocky little island. It had this lighthouse and beautiful nature, and then we found this really beautiful beach. I mean, the water was so crystal clear and greenish. I kind of like it. It's very exotic to me. You don't have too many of these sort of beaches here in Sweden, but in the south of Sweden there's a lot of those type of beaches, and so this was a fun island to be at. And after that, we took the boat back to the main shore, and it was just a really wonderful day. I'll cherish the memory of this day for a really long time. It was that good. Oh, you might wonder, did I bring my expensive camera to this island? No, I did not. I shot everything with my iPhone, and I had my GoPro for some, you know, underwater footage. But I don't know, like, it's a small and tiny compact camera. I like to use it, but it's expensive and it's not compact enough, if that makes sense, you know? So I prefer to have something really tiny like a smartphone or a GoPro when I'm, you know, traveling or whatever. And I think these cameras are more good for, you know, indoors, studio, stuff like that. But it is a very compact camera. I could have definitely brought it with me. I just didn't want to have to worry about it, especially when you go into the water and you have to worry that someone might steal your stuff from the beach, stuff like that. It's too much of a hassle. But yeah, that was pretty much it. So hope you enjoyed this video again, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.